MK, and I am here for another Woodgrain and Winter layout for you guys today. I have these awesome photos right here of this 1800s steam engine drill that the mines used to use down in White Pine County, and I was just super impressed with the ingenuity back in the 1800s, you guys. So I had to document it. So I picked out these awesome film strips because those are like my favorite thing ever. I also picked out some frames, but I wasn't exactly sure where I was going with this specific layout. I just wanted to pull some things out, but I knew that the photos and the paper were really going to be my main element, so I didn't pull a whole lot of embellishments out. I pulled out these really cool puffy stickers that I got at the dollar store, you guys. Actually, it's a $1.25 store, but you know what I mean. Also, I pulled out this, what's it called? The foliage laser cut pieces. I don't end up using any of those. And then a couple of these golden tickets and labels and such. So I'm going to use this piece here. It is my favorite. I have this one too that just says A Wonderful World, I think is what it says, that I got from the cluster kit. But back to the paper. Like I said, this paper is going to do all the work for me, because I just love it. So I'm also thinking about pulling in some of these acetate pieces instead of using the foliage from the laser cut piece. So we will see. I have a lot of layouts to go through or to create this month. I have a lot of high expectations, but I need to spread out my embellishments. If I use them all on 1 or 2 pages, then I won't have any to last me for, 30 days? Yes. So anyways, sharing with you guys the paper that I have. I pulled out the green for my photo mat. I've got that gorgeous plaid. You know it's going to make a staple on my layout. So it's going to be like the main thing. And then of course my wood grain, that's also going to be the main thing. And I'm going to make a double page layout because I don't want to trim down my photos very much. I have a lot to share with you guys. Oh, and I'm still working with my brand new camera setup, so I'm trying my hardest to find the right sweet spot, right? I had it with my tripod, but I love my new arm so much because now I feel like my desk just grew 3 times bigger, not having all of those legs from the tripod, but I still haven't found the angle or the position quite right. So I feel like I'm switching between a single page, a double page, and then of course my smaller pages. So it's a work in progress, so please bear with me, and thank you so much for bearing with me. All right, so I ripped that piece of gorgeous plaid paper in half, and I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, which is work with triangles. Like, I know they're not real triangles, they're ripped pieces of paper, but they made a triangular shape, and this is not known for me. I'm also going to be stretching my wood grain all the way over. I just need to know if I like my wood grain, the grain going up and down or the grain going left and right. I don't know that yet. So it's just one decision that I have to make. It's like the hardest decision. Do you want your stripes going up and down or left and right? And when it comes to stripes, I always say that depends on your photo. So I took that concept and brought it into my wood grain. If your photos are vertical and you're trying to catch the aspect of it going up and down, then you want your stripes going left and right so they don't take away from your photo. And my photos are going up and down. And they're trying to portray that this thing is huge. So I didn't want my wood grain to compete with that. So of course, same concept, I decided left and right is my wood grain. Well, when I first traced out my my corner pieces, the plaid corner pieces, I forgot to take out the branding strip that is on this beautiful wood grain paper. It's an Ella and Vive paper, you guys, from their wood grain backgrounds. Now, I'm not sure if any of this exists anymore. I don't know if it's available or not. I just know that it's gorgeous, and I've been hoarding it for a while. But this paper, the plaid paper, called to be married with this beautiful wood grain paper, you guys. It just was like meant to be together. So anyways, back to the layout. I messed up because I forgot to take out the branding strip, not realizing what it was that my brain was trying to get my hands to do. And so I put a cut into my wood grain, and it's only about 2.5 inches. And then I immediately stopped. I was going to go and try and erase it. Then it started pulling the ink up. I immediately stopped that as well. And now I am just moving on. I'm pretending like that accident never happened. Maybe if I move on to, the layout, then I will be able to get my my mind off of my oopsie, and I'll cover it up without even knowing that I'm going to cover it up. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just going to move on and pretend like it never happened. Okay, so now that I've got my stripes all ripped up, I've got my corner pieces getting ready to lay down. I am super happy with the way that this design is starting to look, even though I don't normally do this type of design. I was super stoked that I was able to stretch this one piece of wood grain, because that's all I had, across my 2-page layout. You're never gonna know unless you watch the video, right? I just was super stoked that it all came together. Now I did have to rip off 3 strips of this striped paper to get it to go across my angle the way that I wanted it to. And I'm okay with it being like a lot showing in one spot and a little showing in some of the other spots. I did rip a couple to get it to go down at the right angle. I mean, I had to manipulate it, but I knew some things were going to be covering it up. So it's okay if it is, if it's ripped and whatnot. So I apologize if you can hear the noise in the background. I am trying to work and record voiceovers at the same time. I don't know if that's very annoying. And also, it's hard for me to edit the video because I can't tell if you can hear it like I can. So I apologize about the noise. Okay, so I'm just gonna say the second side, so the right page, was a little bit more difficult than the first page. One of the reasons why I wanted this stripe piece was because I wanted to draw attention to my papers. I didn't want, yes, the photos are the main aspect, and yes, the photos are, very, very important and all that good stuff, but I wanted to draw attention to this paper because it is my favorite. Now, I was also hoping that this paper was going to cover up my boo-boo, and you can see my boo-boo in the screen, but it doesn't. It barely covers it. It's okay. I am a-okay with the way that it looks, even though I can still kind of see it in real life. But I tried, right? I'm not going to fuss with it too much. I'm just going to make sure that all of my paper is ruffled up because it's a grungy layout, right? It's a layout about some drill rigs, which I thought was pretty cool, you guys, in all honesty. And my favorite part about this is these drills were designed by a gentleman back in the 1800s named Robert Downey. Now, is that just not the coolest name ever? As soon as I think of that, I think of Iron Man, because Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. And of course, Iron Man is supposed to be this genius when it comes to creation and making things and all that stuff. And here we have an 1800s Robert Downey that is creating drills to, he actually initially created them back in, I want to say Pennsylvania is where they actually came from. And one made its way all the way over to Nevada, which I think is fabulous. But he made them for Texas. He made them for oil. And getting the oil for the farmers out of their land and whatnot was the sole purpose of them. And then, of course, when everybody started moving west and needing water, he created them to make wells on people's properties. So it was just a really great invention that was needed, is still needed, because we still make drills today. In fact, that's what my husband does for a living. And I just think that is fabulous. That is what this is. Now, I have to say, when I first took these photos, I thought, and I giggle at myself because it does pay to do research. I thought that this was a train car. that it rode on the train tracks. And in all honesty, I thought that its job was to string up the cables for the telephone pole. So that's what I assumed that large tower really was before I started doing research on it. What happened, and I was looking and I kept searching and I was like, what do you call this thing? Like, I don't understand. I can see that it has a burner in the back. I can see that it has some sort of wheel to do something. I just don't get it. And when I first started looking at it, I thought, okay, well, that's the cable and the spool that all the cables on. I can see the cables going up to the tower. You know, it just made sense to me that this was to help people string cable along the railroad for telephone poles. I mean, that is exactly what I assumed it was for. Well, then I scrolled to another photo that I took on my camera, which I am so glad I had the foresight to do this. It was a photo taken back in 1890 of them using this exact very drill down in the copper pit in in White Pines. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a drill. And I could not believe it. I had to call my husband in. I had to tell him all about it. And I said, look, it's a steam engine drill. And if you look up this drill, which is actually called a Kenworth, of all things, which we thought that's another story entirely, by the way. But we were looking up this. You get the entire history when you start looking up the steam engine drills, especially called the Kenworth. And you start looking it up and checking out what all about it and all that stuff. It just made my heart happy. It really, really did, because it tells you his very first attempt at it, and it worked and it did the job, but then he reinforced it. He added these extra bars going across to support the frame and the torque that the drill going into the dirt was causing. I mean, it's just amazing how he goes from the steam engine to a diesel engine, and just all the history of the genius of this guy, and it just is so cool. I'm sorry. It is just super cool. That I can't even tell you. There's also an article of a farmer. Now I can't remember. I did not read too much into it. I just read how cool that this guy really is. But there's a farmer that found one of these and completely restored it, and it is in working condition. He takes it to the fair and he demonstrates it at the fair in his hometown where he lives, and it is fabulous. He painted it all nice and red. It's just an absolutely beautiful machine that he has, and there's lots and lots of articles about his drill rig, which I think is really cool. But this one, being the original that was located at the copper pit, just made my heart happy that, you know, history preserves itself, and we choose to preserve the history, and we get to see this, because in my brain, if I never would have looked this up or took that extra photo, I would have always thought that it was a telephone pole train car, because it looks like it belongs on the railroad. It looks like those wheels that have no tires, no nothing. They're made of metal. Looks like they belong on the train tracks. But there's a history behind that. That's actually the counterweight for the drill. So when the drill is pushing down into the earth and causing all of that pressure, the back end of the drill is so heavy, it's actually holding it down, with the engine being all the way in the back, those ginormous metal wheels going all the way in the back, all that stuff. Well, as time progressed and he started, Robert Downey started actually improving his design, he went to a rubber tire, so that way it's more movable. People can actually get on it and drive it into the next hole, you know, and use it instead of, this one here was actually moved by oxen or horses or mules, things like that, whatever the animal was of the day, I assume. So the animals moved this for us, whereas he ended up using the steam engine part of this machine. And then, of course, like I said, moved on to diesel. He moved it into an axle system. So the people could move it. And it's like a why not type of deal. So I am just writing down that it's the name of the drill down at the very bottom. And then it says back in the day that on that huge cross beam up at the top, that's where he put the name of it. And it also said the history of how it got its name, but I don't remember that. And then, of course, I was writing down that it was designed by Robert Downey, and then it was used in the copper flat pit in White Pine County back in the 1800s. Actually, I wrote down 1880s because it actually goes when, what his first design was and when he started it, and then moved on to, the 1880s, actually 1882 to be specific, was the metal wheels. And then in 1890, he moved on to the rubber wheels, which, is what the farmer has. If you look up the story about the farmer, and what he has. So it is just interesting, how he adapted his machines. Keystone. I kept calling it Kenworth, you guys. It's the Keystone drill. I apologize about that. Like I said, there's a huge history of the name, too. I kept calling it a Kenworth. Now I feel really bad. History lesson ruined. I apologize about that. So anyways, you guys, I had a blast taking this Christmas paper and turning it into just a fabulous layout for this really cool drill that happens to be sitting in the snow, in all honesty. That's all that it is. I just needed to document this because I think it's really cool. It definitely pertains to what my husband does for a living. And it was super cool. And again, like I said, it's not a telephone cable stringer. All right, you guys, don't forget to check out the playlist down below for everyone else that is playing along with Woodgrain and Winter. Janet and I are so super excited that everyone has joined us this month, even though it is the busiest time of the year. I look forward to seeing all the Woodgrain projects, you guys. Seriously, I just think that Woodgrain and snow is a beautiful combination. It really is. So anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will check y'all later. Bye.